Part 3 to Ask Me Anything Holidays 2018 with Michael Montero. Jack Alter asks, Triple G versus Callum Smith in 2019, who wins? You know, I want to lean toward Golovkin because Golovkin will be the best, most experienced fighter Smith has fought. He's certainly better than Groves. But you look at the age, Callum Smith is not that much, I want to say 6-7 years younger. But Golovkin has been a pro now for 12 years. Smith has been a pro for 6 years. And then the amateur careers, right? So Golovkin's a lot older in boxing years, had some grueling fights with Jacobs and Canelo. And height, 6'3" to 5'10". So I still think Golovkin wins a decision, but man, that's going to be a tough one. That's going to be a tough one, just the size difference. TKF, if you have to name one active heavyweight boxer fighter you like the most, who would it be? An active heavyweight boxer I like the most. You know, just in terms of watching him, it's Anthony Joshua. As far as the person, the individual, I don't really know him. I've never met him. Deontay Wilder, fun to watch because he's so out there. But as far as a personality, you know, I've met Deontay and people attached to him. He puts on a front in front of the cameras. He's really a big, sweet teddy bear type of guy in real life. But overall, just as far as watching and everything, AJ, his events and everything like that. But as far as personality, I might go with Wilder, to be honest with you. Wilder's actually a pretty good guy. And then also TKF asks, at what exact moment did you realize that Tiffany is the real deal? Good question. Broner Maidana. Remember that fight? That might have been 2014, 2015. Me and Tiffany, it was probably 2015. No, 2014. Me and Tiffany were first started dating. And, you know, I was getting her into boxing. Because if you're going to date me, you're going to have to watch boxing. That's just what it is. And she really got involved in Marcos Maidana. I showed her some of his clips and stuff, and then I think Showtime did a preview show or whatever, and she watched it with me, and she saw what a prick Broner was and what a kind of cool and fun and interesting guy Maidana is. So she was really rooting for Maidana, but I was telling her, look, if this goes to the cards, Broner's going to win. Broner's the A side. He's probably going to win, so you need to prepare yourself to be pissed off, you know, and let down. And when Maidana dropped Broner, Tiffany jumped out of her seat. It was jumping up and down and cheering. And then he knocked him down, I think twice in that fight, right? Or hurt him a couple times. And she was jumping up and down. And she was, you know, when I met her, very quiet and reserved and conservative. I've kind of got her to open up a little bit. I've pulled some of that personality that I saw was back there, but it was a little reserved. I've kind of gotten it to come out. But when I first met her, she was a lot more shy and reserved. Seeing her jump up and down and go nuts over that, that's when I was like, maybe I got something here. And then, honestly, when I absolutely knew is when she pushed me to start Montero Unboxing. Tiffany was, you know, likes photography and shooting videos and stuff, and she started filming stuff for me and pushing me on YouTube. And it was really, really her that started this shit. I had been writing and doing all that stuff for years, but this side of it, the Montero Unboxing brand, if you will, that was all her. And the way she supported me and was actively engaged in my interests. You know, I had dated, you know, a ton of girls that, you know, would go to a fight with me. I'd talk, you know, go to a sporting event, but Tiffany became actively engaged. I came over to her house once and she was just laying on her bed with her laptop watching Bradley Provodnikov on her laptop, just by herself. Just wanted to see it because I told her it was a good fight. And I was just like, and she'd ask me questions about boxing and all this. She really became interested in my interests. That's when I knew I had one, man. That's when I knew I had to keep her. Hamed, 92, asks, why is the majority of boxing media not mainstream media? Because boxing's not a mainstream sport. And to be honest with you, boxing is not fair. And a lot of the way our mainstream media likes to cover things and talk about things. It's very politically correct. There's certain lines you can't cross. Boxing don't give a shit about that. It's very politically incorrect, and boundaries are overstepped all the time. So it's that, plus the fact that boxing is a niche sport, particularly here in the United States. He also asked, if Fury beats Wilder, who has a better resume, Joshua or Fury? Whoa. Now that's a good question. You know, overall body of work, I'd still give it to Joshua, and here's why. Fury would have a big win over a less than, a less than spectacular version of Vladimir Klitschko, and a big win over Wilder, who proved himself to a certain extent against Ortiz, but there's still a lot of question marks about him. Joshua would have a win over a much better version of Klitschko than Fury faced. But also there's all the other guys he's fought. His unified titles. The win over Joseph Parker, which I feel is an underrated win. Povetkin, even though it was past his best version of Povetkin. Dillian White. Those sorts of wins, the consistency there and the activity over the last few years where, Fury would have one win over Klitschko, 3 years of doing nothing, a win over Wilder. So I'd still edge it to Joshua. But it'd be damn close, my man. That's a good question. James Lopez asks, who has a better and bigger fatty, Clarissa Shields or Heather Hardy? Hardy, trust me. And who is the hardest woman puncher in boxing? The hardest punching boxer, female boxer ever that I've ever seen was Ann Wolfe. Ann Wolfe is mean. Just mean. Timmy Turner asks, who do you predict winning the World Boxing Super Series? In a way, Taylor, and I'm starting to lean toward Glowacki in the Cruiserweight tournament. Don't call me crazy, but I'm starting to lean toward Glowacki. Might change, but I just got a feeling, man. I just got a feeling. What are your goals in life? Why can't boxing become a real mainstream sport like football? Okay, so the second part of that, following up on what I said to Hamed, right, with his question, it's the way boxing, it's not PC. There's a lot of people who don't want to put their kids in boxing because they don't want their kid punched in the head. And the way boxing's structured, you don't have a season, you don't have a league. It's very, very hard for a sponsorship deal to happen that's consistent, where it's marketed and branded to casual fans where it's like football. Oh, NFL, you know what months the NFL's on. You know the championship is the Super Bowl. It's going to be every year in early February. You know that on Sundays, that's when most football happens. Sometimes there's Monday Night Football. College football is on Saturday, right? It's so easy for a casual fan who may not catch, say your team is the Los Angeles Rams, who just had an amazing victory last night, 54-51. That game was ridiculous, but you don't catch every Rams game. You can find information easily about the Rams game, right? You can find it all over media and all that. But also, you know that the next one coming up is probably going to be Sunday, right? You can do a quick search. There's only a handful of networks it's going to be on because of the way the network deals are structured with the NFL. And I'm using the NFL as an example, but I could use a million other ones. So boxing, it's so loosely connected and it's so global. Look at the pound for pound list. Look at the different countries and continents that are represented on that pound for pound list. Now compare that to the NFL. All 10 top players are American guys, with names that are easy to pronounce, anglicized names that middle America can understand. Vasyl Lomachenko, Alexander Usyk, even Canelo Alvarez. Those are hard names for some people to relate to. I know it sounds crazy, but it's the truth. So it's just structured so differently. You can't compare it. What are my goals in life? Let's stick to boxing. I want to build up a crazy body of work with Boxing Monthly and Ring Magazine. I'm talking articles in actual magazines where I have dozens, if not one day, 100+ articles printed in those magazines decades from now. I want to build up a huge body of work of podcasts on the Neutral Corner and on this channel that eventually leads me to getting some sort of network role, whether it's on DAZN or ESPN Plus, and maybe it's commentating fights, but maybe it's doing a studio show. I don't know. But I look at what just happened with my boy Steve Kim. You know, he just got the job at ESPN. But that took decades of work for him to start covering events for ESPN now as a writer. And I hope that one day it leads to him calling fights on ESPN, because he should be. He's ready right now. He's better than some of the guys on the current crew. But that's kind of the direction I want to go, man. Decades from now, I want to have, you know, just a body of work in this sport that cannot be denied. Right now, there's still people out there who say I'm full of shit. I don't know what I'm talking about. There's haters out there, blah, 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 right? That's always going to exist. But one day, if I've got stacks of, you know, a magazine stack this high of my articles I could slap on a desk, I've got millions and millions of views and thousands of followers, tens of thousands of subscribers that I didn't pay for on my channel. I've called fights for Thompson Boxing or whoever else, you know, and I build myself up that way. Maybe I could get on with DeBella in his series that he does up in New York, or one of those guys, you know, and I just have that profile to give to somebody. And I can say, you know what, you can hate me all you want, but deny that shit. Look at that body of work. That's my goal. DS Kennels 210 asks, why hasn't Eddie made Matchroom's fight library available on the service on DAZN like Top Rank did for ESPN Plus? So the rights deals are a little different there. He doesn't have some of the same rights exclusivity that Top Rank does with some of their, particularly their classic fights. But I did notice on DAZN, there's a lot of Anthony Joshua fights and some of the other Matchroom guys. There's a handful of fights, so there's a building fight library there. But again, you can't compare Hearn to Top Rank. Apples and oranges. Top Rank's been doing this for decades, man. I do expect more to come, though, to DAZN. Ko Matsuda asks, in terms of boxing years, how old do you think Canelo is? So Canelo turned 28 this year, I think in July, and that's pretty much how old he is in boxing years. Not much of an amateur career. The first several dozen fights he had coming up didn't take much punishment at all. Underrated defense and head movement. Has never really been badly hurt in a fight by a big puncher. If he's ever been buzzed or hurt in a fight, it had more to do with him killing himself to make weight. And now he's moved up at the right time, fighting at 60 to 68 for the rest of his career. He's right in there, same age in terms of human age, fighter age. Faint Cat 2 asks, if Maurice Hooker and Jose Ramirez meet up and unify, should it be in Fresno, Texas, or Vegas? You know how I feel about Vegas. It's going to be between Fresno and Dallas. The question is going to be, who could bring more money? Who could sell more tickets? If money is the ultimate goal, it would go to Vegas. And that's a neutral setting. So maybe that's where it goes. But I know damn sure that Ramirez could pack the house in Fresno, and I'm not so sure Hooker could sell 10,000 tickets in Dallas. I don't even know if he could sell half that right now, to be honest. So either Vegas or Fresno, to be honest with you. Jay Mamariel asks, can Manny Pacquiao be considered in the top 3 greatest boxers of all time with his current accolades? No. Look, Manny is one of the best fighters ever, pound for pound. He is certainly among the top stories, just as far as his life story, of fighters, of athletes, you know, in the last 50 years. He's almost Muhammad Ali-esque in some of the trajectory of his life and his impact. You look at his impact in his homeland and in the greater region around the Philippines, and even globally, and what he's done for boxing, particularly with Filipino fans, Filipino-American fans, Asian boxing in general. I hate to take it there, but it's true. He gave a real face to Asian athletes here in America that they didn't have before. Even more so than some of the Japanese baseball players did, in my opinion, because he was a bigger star than Ichiro and guys like that, in my opinion. So, yes, he's up there in that respect. But as far as all time, bro, look, Pacquiao, Mayweather, they were great. They were the best of their era. But there's so many great fighters in the history of boxing. And the fighters of yesteryear fought I mean, guys like Pep, guys like Robinson, guys like Greb, I talked about, Leonard, I'm talking about Benny Leonard, guys who have fought hundreds of professional fights. Just, you can't compare. So I wouldn't put Manny in the top 10. I wouldn't put Mayweather in the top 10, but they're among the greatest fighters of all time. Manny especially, when you look at where he started and his pinnacle, his height. I think he came from lower lows than Mayweather and reached higher highs than Mayweather, but also had a downfall. Mayweather kind of just did this and then stayed here, you know? So, yeah. So I hope that answers your question. Titus Scari asks, if Usyk versus Joshua happens, what would be my take on that fight? Way too soon to know because we haven't seen Usyk take a heavyweight punch from a heavyweight. But based on skills, Usyk boxes circles around AJ. Based on stamina, Usyk runs circles around Joshua. But in terms of power and punch resistance, different story. And that's going to be the difference in that fight. We won't know. I won't be able to give you an assessment until we see Usyk fight at heavyweight and maybe fight the winner between White and Chisora. I think that would be, I think Big Baby Miller will probably fight that guy. But, you know, after that, late next year, early 2020, that's when I think Usyk should move up to heavyweight. I think he should do a couple more defenses at cruiserweight. That's just my opinion. Egas Klimas' manager says they're going to take their time. I think that's the smart route. I think that's what they should do. Let's see how he takes a punch at heavyweight, and then we'll decide, okay? But in terms of skills, Usyk all day. Ed Kaler asks, what weapons do I own? I don't own any weapons, unless you consider these weapons. Oh! But no, seriously, in some of my younger criminal days, I may have owned some guns. I may have had a .22 Beretta and other small weapons like that I could hide inside the leather coat. Knives and batons and blackjacks and things like that. Yeah, I might have owned some of that stuff. I was in the Marine Corps. I shot more guns. I've seen more guns. I've seen more violence and blood and heads blown off that I need to see. Hands blown off, too, from grenades that I need to see in a lifetime. Okay, so I don't need a freaking gun. I just don't. I don't think I'll ever own a gun. That's just my opinion on it. Hayden Burke asks, this is a tough one. Since I talk about it quite a lot, I just want to know when you think problems for black people stopped being significantly more than white people in general in America. You also make a lot of comments about the Me Too movement as you think it's overpushed or whatever, but I think it does more good than bad. Okay, so, bro, to answer this question, I did one detailed video kind of related to this on the last Ask Me Anything, and I dedicated a whole video segment to it. Guys, go back and watch that for perspective here. This is a very complex, convoluted, layered topic, and I could not properly address it in a 5-minute answer here on this video, okay? Sticking with hashtag movements like, let's say, a Black Lives Matter, let's say a Me Too, I think that the origins and the outlook for those movements by the people who started them, I think had good intentions. I think sometimes, even the NFL where guys were kneeling during the national anthem, I think some of those original first guys doing that had good intentions and were trying to do a good thing. What happens though is I think a lot of people jump on the bandwagon just to be part of something who really don't know the statistics, who really don't know what's going on, who think they're making a difference because they tweet something or post something on Facebook. It's like during this midterm election. There was a billion of my friends posting political crap all over Facebook, vote for this guy, vote for that guy, thinking that's going to change my opinion on the election. It's not. I think a lot of people deal in emotion rather than logic and statistics, facts, and data. They deal with emotions and their prejudices. Everyone has prejudices and biases, and that's affected by your emotions and your own personal experiences. But you could be blinded by those things, and you could look at one little nugget of facts here while ignoring the totality of the data. And I think that's some of these movements, right? Like let's take Me Too. The media has beat the shit out of certain guys who have been accused through the Me Too movement, and some of them deservingly so. But then there's been other cases where Kevin Spacey is a gay dude who harassed underage boys barely a word from the media. Asia Argento, female actress who sexual misconduct with an underage man. Zero from the media. So my issue, Black Lives Matter. There have been people tied to the Black Lives Matter movement who have assaulted and murdered white people, who have assaulted and or murdered cops, right? Who are sympathizers or members of that thing. Nothing from the media. My issue is the way it's treated and handled and the double standards involved with it as it relates to our media. That's my biggest issue with it. And the bandwagon people that just pile on and jump onto that shit who weren't part of the original movement and don't really know what the hell it was even about to begin with. That's generally my issue with stuff like that. Do I think all that stuff does some good? Yes. I just think that it also does some bad. If we're going to talk about the good, we have to also talk about the bad, okay? So Cody asks, Cody A804, what does Broner gain if he beats Pacquiao? Everything. That's his signature victory, and he gets a huge fight. It either sets up a rematch, or he gets to go after Thurman or Spence or one of those guys and get knocked out by them, but go for a title unification. And if Pacquiao wins, who does he think first, God or Al Heyman? Well, Al Heyman is God, so of course he's going to think Al Heyman. Gav Bridges asks, Fury Wilder, this fight has been offered on a budget cheap deal website over here called Woucher. Have you ever known a heavyweight title fight to be selling packages on a budget site this close to fight night? No. I can't think of anything like that. I know there have been certain fights where there's been Groupons and, package deals and stuff like that. Some of Andre Ward's fights there were that I can think of. But I've never heard of Woucher. But I'm curious, what price are they selling it on there? Because it's pay-per-view over there in the UK, right? Or is it? No, actually over there it's on regular TV over there because the fight's here in the States, I would think, correct? Here it's on pay-per-view. So I'm curious. Correct me if I'm wrong, man. My brain might be too scrambled right now. But yeah, look, Fury, Wilder, Fury. That fight should be sold out. And the promotion should be much bigger than it is. They've really mishandled it, in my opinion. But what can you do? Fleener asked, what are your thoughts on Paulie Malignaggi and his agenda towards certain fighters? I like Paulie a lot as a person, and I think when he sticks to just X's and O's of what he's seeing in the ring, he's probably the best commentator, like former fighter commentator that we have in the sport right now. He does an outstanding job. But he does seem to have these weird personal grievances and issues with certain fighters or fighters with certain entities, certain platforms, whether it be a certain promoter, a certain trainer. And I just don't know why. It's hard to explain and it's bizarre. But he's not the only one who does, to be honest with you. Fleener asked a few questions here. He also asked, where do you think Floyd ranks as an all-time great? I talked about this a little earlier. He's in the top 25. I'd have to really sit and think about it. He's definitely not in the top 10, though. He's just not. But top 25, yeah, you can make that argument. As far as defensive technicians, top 10. But overall fighters, when you start looking at resume, the types of challenges he took, all things considered, maybe top 25. Do I watch any other combat sports besides boxing? Not really. I mean, American football, I guess, I consider that a team sport. It is a contact sport, but not combat sport per se. But yeah, I don't watch MMA really. I don't watch judo, jiu-jitsu, kickboxing. Every now and then if I flip through the channels and something like that's on, I might look at it for a few seconds, but just not my thing. As far as martial arts goes, boxing is my favorite. And as far as other sports, I grew up loving basketball, but the NBA lost me years ago. I just can't watch it anymore. I haven't watched that much NFL over the last 2 seasons, but when a good game is still on, I will watch it. That Rams Chiefs game last night was outstanding. So a little bit. And then Major League Baseball, I don't really watch during the regular season, but of course I'll watch the playoffs and the World Series. Same thing goes with hockey. Last question from Fleener. Do I believe in the afterlife? Or do you think when we die, we just become nothing? Good question. So, I am a very logic and reason, fact, science-based type of person. Okay? I wish there was an afterlife. I hope there's some sort of afterlife that we continue living. But based on everything we know scientifically right now at this point, based on all the evidence and data we have, and it's not 100% certain, but based on everything we have, you can make a very, very logical theory, and in the scientific community, theory is a pretty high level, that there is no afterlife. We can't say for sure. Look, gravity is only a theory. We don't know for sure if gravity exists. Maybe it's something else. But gravity is a theory, right? Black holes, theory, right? There's all these different things. No afterlife is the theory because we just don't have the evidence to prove it. We don't have the evidence to completely disprove it. But if you look at everything we know and all the information we do have, it's much more probable and likely, and I'm talking 99% to 1%, much more likely that there is no afterlife. Now, maybe life itself is an energy. And energy could not be created nor destroyed, right? So maybe when you die, this energy inside you that is life moves on to something else. Because what's different between me and this paper? We're both constructed of matter. You know, every object has a little bit of gravity to it, right? Depending on your size. I have more gravity than this piece of paper, but there's certain physics and properties that apply to both of us. But I'm alive. This paper isn't. So there's part of me that thinks, well, shit, what is life then? Because we haven't been able to recreate life. Life can create more life. That's pretty much it. So maybe, there's a tiny, minute possibility, 1/1,000,000%, that this life force in us, this life energy in us, goes on to a different sort of level, dimension, or plane. Look, man, maybe stars are life. Maybe all life comes from the freaking sun. I don't know. Or these suns. I honestly don't know. I don't know the answer for it. Maybe every black hole on the other side of it shoots out another big bang and creates another galaxy. Like, there's just so much shit we don't know. What I do know, and I'm fairly certain on it, is that every religion that is a man-made creation, hundreds, thousands of years ago, depending on the religion you have, can be disproven with science. Every single text, can pretty much be disproven. So that's why they call it faith. And some people have faith, some people don't. For me, again, I'm a logic and reason kind of guy. I certainly respect people who have faith and have religion. And I think that one of the great things about the United States is you are free to believe and lead your life the way you so choose. And I'm a kind of live and let live kind of guy. You want to be whatever religion you want to be, a snake charmer, Buddhist, Muslim, Christian, Catholic, Jewish, whatever. You want to be gay, straight, bisexual. Live your life and enjoy it. It's just for me personally, I don't think there's anything beyond this. And that goes back to what I said in part 1 of this segment, guys. Live your life. You don't get the years back. There's nothing that's guaranteed after you die. We don't know, but it's very probable that this is it. So live your damn life. If there's something you want to try, there's something you want to do it. Even if it's traveling to go see Machu Picchu and you don't have money, save up money and go do it. All right, last question from Naiman Musin. Do you think that Abel Sanchez is the best for Triple G, and without him, Triple G would have been better? So more stuff on Abel Sanchez. And he goes on here talking about a few different things. Abel's transformed Golovkin into a one-dimensional fighter. Golovkin spent 7 years in Big Bear. He got nothing better as a boxer. He's even lost some abilities. Okay, so I'm going to close on this Abel Sanchez thing. Look, Gennady Golovkin turns, 37 next year? He's not going to get any better. You don't see fighters, generally speaking, get better in their mid-30s. So Golovkin wasn't going to get better with Abel Sanchez in terms of his actual boxing craft and skills. Golovkin is forgotten more about boxing than most fighters will ever know. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, as they say. What Abel has done with Gennady is perfect a certain style that has worked for him in the pros. You can't really take his amateur style and apply that to the pros. He wouldn't have been as successful. But he's taken his certain style and perfected it. And can Gennady Golovkin be one-dimensional? I don't think so. Look, the second fight with Canelo. Canelo came forward. Did Golovkin back into the ropes and stop fighting and cover up? No. He circled around and jabbed the shit out of Canelo. And I thought, in many spots, outboxed him in the center of the ring. So we didn't see the stalking coming forward Golovkin. We saw a boxing Golovkin. I thought he showed some adjustments and wrinkles in that rematch. Maybe not as many as Canelo did, though. At least that's what the judges felt.